Today on the How is 2023 Almost Over Says podcast, I'll be discussing Google shutting down Google Podcasts, YouTube allowing you to pause comments on your videos, and other stuff too, so go ahead and stick around. It was just announced by Google that they are going to be shutting down the standalone Google Podcast apps. It seems as though you're going to be able to continue to listen to shows through March of 2024, but after that, you won't be able to listen to anything. You won't be able to download or subscribe to anything. But from March 24 through July 2024, it will still be accessible so that you're able to migrate your subscriptions out of Google Podcasts to some other app that you want to use. Now, the reason that it seems that Google is shutting down Google Podcasts is so that they can invest all of their podcasting money into a single podcatcher, and that podcatcher is now going to be YouTube Music. And the reason that I think they went with YouTube Music as opposed to Google Podcasts is brand awareness and brand recognition. The reason that I'm saying that is what is one of the biggest platforms that people consume podcasts. And I put podcasts in bunny ears because I know many people will say, those aren't podcasts. That is not important. What is important is people are consuming what they consider podcasts on YouTube. So when the general consumer thinks about podcasting, they think of YouTube, and up until now, up until YouTube Music rolled out that RSS integration, you couldn't get any actual RSS-based podcasts through a YouTube entity. Now you are going to get that, and now they are going to focus all of their podcasting investment into YouTube Music to hopefully make a much better podcatcher, a much better listening experience for those who want the actual RSS-based audio-only podcast. Now, as somebody who subscribes to YouTube Premium, I watch way too much YouTube and I listen to way too many podcasts. I still don't see any big reason to make the shift from my existing podcatcher over to YouTube Music. However, I did start using YouTube Music. I tried out YouTube Music because I get it for free, or it is included in the cost of YouTube Premium. And as far as music goes, I think that YouTube Music is pretty darn good. The audio quality is fine. The amount of music that is available is fantastic. I like the ability to switch between the audio only and the video. And most importantly for me is the recommendation algorithm. All of the interesting music that I have found over the last couple of years has been almost solely based on the YouTube algorithm, and that holds true for YouTube Music. There is one huge reason why I haven't made the complete shift over to the YouTube Music app. I hope this is something that can be resolved, because if it is, I will cancel Apple Music and go 100% to YouTube Music. If you are away from your phone, you cannot stream music from your Apple Watch. So when I'm out for my walks, when I don't have my phone and I want to listen to music, I need to still have that Apple Music app so I can listen to something, because I do stream a lot of music. So once that is resolved, I will make the complete shift over to YouTube Music and save a couple of bucks a month. Luckily, right now, I have a 6-month free trial of Apple Music. Even though I've had Apple Music for years at this point, I found a way to get 6 months free. Pretty sweet. But once that's done, I would love to save $15 a month and move over. And therein lies the point where I think YouTube Music might actually stand a chance. As people have less and less disposable income, as their dollars are devalued, as everything gets more and more expensive, they're going to want to, or maybe they'll be forced to look for areas to save money. And what is one area where people are getting fatigue? Subscriptions. So if they are paying for YouTube Premium, Spotify, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, all of that, maybe they'll consider, okay, with Spotify, I get a bunch of music, but with YouTube Premium, I get ad-free viewing on YouTube and a bunch of music, and it's only $2 more. So if I cancel Spotify Premium or Spotify Plus, whatever it is, and just stick with my YouTube Premium subscription, then I'm saving a couple of bucks. And if that does happen, if people move exclusively from Spotify over to YouTube Music, and that is the only music streaming app they have, then once they're integrated there, maybe they'll start using YouTube Music as a podcatcher. So although there is a lot of speculation there, a lot of assumptions, I think that is one way that YouTube Music could succeed as a standalone music player, music streaming service, but also a podcatcher. But for me, that raises the question, has YouTube Music been successful as a podcatcher up until now? I remember James Cridlin from podnews.net. By the way, if you're a podcaster, go to podnews.net, subscribe to the show. I remember him mentioning that he was getting quite a few downloads from YouTube Music, and when this first launched, I pulled my numbers. It was bleak. I was getting nothing. So I wanted to revisit those numbers and see where we are about 6 months on. On the Bandrew Says podcast channel between May and December 9th, we have 136 listens, or 0.2% of the total views/listens on YouTube. On Podcastage, my channel with 310,000 subs, I got 3.5 million views from May to December. 398 of those were from YouTube Music, and there are a number of playlists on the Podcastage channel that are podcasts. So looking at my numbers from my two biggest channels, it really doesn't seem like YouTube Music has taken off as a podcatcher, but if you are a podcaster who uses YouTube, who has installed or migrated your RSS feed onto YouTube, or if you have YouTube videos that are set up as a podcast playlist, I would love to hear from you. What are the figures? Give me the percentage. You don't need to share the views, the downloads, the listens if you don't want, but I would love to know the percentage breakdown. How much comes from YouTube proper, and how much is coming from YouTube Music? That is it for that story. I will have a couple of links to blog posts in the episode notes and description in case you want to read a little bit more, or if you want to learn how to migrate your subscriptions out of Google Podcasts. Next, YouTube is rolling out a new feature that is going to allow content creators or YouTube channel managers to pause their comments. Now, this may be a little bit confusing, so let's explore what this means. Up until now, you've had a couple of ways on how to manage your comments. You could have your comments wide open, and every single time somebody leaves a comment, it shows up. You can hold every single comment for review, and it only shows up once you go in and approve it, and then you have shut off comments. That last option is the most relevant here because when comments were shut off, nobody would be able to leave a comment, and most importantly, no existing comments would be visible to anybody. It would just say, comment section is shut off, and it would be blank. Now enter the pause comment section. If you have had your comment section open for a while and a bunch of people have left comments, but you don't want to manage them, you don't want to have to review them, you don't want to hold them, but you want the existing commentary and responses to be available, you can now pause the comments. Nobody will be able to leave a new comment, but the existing comments will still be visible. That is it. That's the entire feature. I don't think it's any more complicated. I don't think it's any more complex than that. And I think this is a nice addition. It's just another tool that allows people to determine and decide how they want to run their channel, how they want to moderate comments. Will I be using it? No. But I imagine a lot of people will get a huge benefit out of this. If you want to read a little bit more directly from YouTube, I will link their post in the episode notes and description. Let's now jump to what I have been testing. I am on the Neumann, Neumann KMS105, running through the Universal Audio LA610 into the Universal Audio X8. That is it. Let us jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Incredibly Handsome. Dawn of the Dead is still unavailable in the US. It's ridiculous. I work in a feature film distribution and it's in a terrible limbo. I responded, do you have a region-free 4K player? And he responded, 4K UHD has no region coding, so any 4K player will play any 4K disc. It's total anarchy. Just be aware if you buy foreign 4Ks, sometimes the extra features are on a normal Blu-ray disc that will be region locked. Incredibly handsome, thank you very much for the comment, and thank you very much for that fantastic news that 4K UHD has no region coding. The reason I'm saying that, I am holding up Dawn of the Dead 4K UHD from Second Sight Films in the UK. When this was on pre-order, I thought I ordered the Blu-ray version because I may or may not have a region-free Blu-ray and DVD player. Only to find out, oh no, I ordered a 4K and this won't play on my device. You have sold me. Now I may be going out and buying a 4K UHD player, even though my TV is about 10 years old and it's 1080p. I don't care, because now I can watch my 4K Dawn of the Dead and see all of the additional features as well, because if it's on Blu-ray, no sweat, I have a workaround for that. Now I'm going to pass off a question to everybody watching and or listening to this. 4K UHD player recommendations. I have not looked into any kind of DVD, Blu-ray, 4K HD players in years, so I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's good. If you have any experience, please let me know in the comments on YouTube so that I don't waste a bunch of money buying a couple of players or buying one that ends up sucking, having to return it, spend money on that return shipping, and then be out a bunch of money. So if you have experience with 4K UHD players, I would love to know your experience. What do you use and what do you like or dislike about it? Thank you very much for that great information. If I am lucky, maybe I'll swing for the fences and get myself a 4K UHD player as a gift for myself for Christmas. Who knows? Probably not. That's probably going to be too much money for me. But that is it. Thank you very much for that comment. Next, we have a comment from MEI Studio New York. Pags, he says, is there a way to download the media from the distributor/streaming service? I don't subscribe to any video services. Just wondering if we could get a media drive and store what we quote-unquote buy. Pags, thank you very much for the comment. I really do appreciate it. I'm not too certain here because the only service that I use really is Apple Movies or iTunes. You do have the option to download a movie that you've purchased. I don't know if you're able to move that downloaded file to a server of your own. I know that it does contain some kind of copy protection, though. So you can't buy a movie, get an MP4 file, and then send it to some random person. It needs to be locked into your account. You need to be logged in to watch it. So it's not going to be a free-for-all. Now, something you could theoretically do, I don't know if this would work, but download every single movie that you've bought in the iTunes Apple Movie Store, store it on an external server, and then if they lose the rights, maybe you'll still be able to access that and watch that, or maybe not. I don't know how that would work because I've never done it. If you have experience with that, let me know. But that is one way that I think you might be able to work around this. Download what you've bought, store it on your own external drive, and then maybe you will have to open it up in Apple Movies and watch it that way. But if they don't need to have it stored on their server, maybe you can get around losing access to it. I have no idea. Very good question. That's something I have no idea what just happened there. My brain just went haywire. That is something to look into. Thank you very much, Pags. I appreciate you. Next, we have a couple of comments from Record 216 Cleveland. He says, as soon as you started talking about movies, the immediate thought that came to me was, when do you have time to watch movies? 9 minutes later, when do you have time to play games? Record 216, thank you very much for the comments and thank you very much for the questions. When do I have time to play games? When I am lazy, laying in bed at 5:30 in the morning and I just pull up my phone and say, okay, I'm going to play a little bit of word game before I get up and get out of bed and face the cold. When do I watch movies? When I am making supper and while I am eating supper. I watch movies, I watch TV shows. So every single day, I get maybe an hour and a half of time watching TV. Now, occasionally there are days where I'm feeling super duper lazy and I don't want to do any kind of work, so I don't. I will sit on my butt a Saturday afternoon until voice chat and watch TV, watch movies all day, play word games, play solitaire on my phone, any of that. So it's about finding time whenever you can to do what you enjoy, to unwind a bit. For me, that is movies, TV, listening to music while I walk, listening to podcasts throughout the day. That all helps me maintain equilibrium. Because I work maybe 60 to 80 hours a week, it can wear you down quite a bit. Finding the little bit of time that you have to do something that you enjoy, something that helps you escape, rather, I think that's really important. So, while I'm making dinner and eating dinner, I'll do something that helps me escape this world for a little bit, like watching Battlestar Galactica because that's super uplifting. I have 2 episodes to go. I'm going to finish that series tonight after I finish editing and uploading this podcast. I have not rewatched the entire series in a decade, maybe. It's been a while. So I cannot wait to finish it. That is how I find time to do it. You make time to do it. Thank you very much, Record216. Next, we have 2 comments from Liam Strain and Sound Speeds. Liam says, I use parabolic microphones in field recording. You are right in that there is some coloration going on, but not quite like your test sample with a bowl. What you tend to find is that parabolics are very good with higher frequencies, but struggle with the lows, especially with smaller parabolas, which you would prefer for indoor use, as the larger 26 to 36 inch reflectors get quite unwieldy indoors, so they tend to act like high-pass filters, which can really affect voice characteristics. Indoors, they are also quite sensitive to room reflections because it picks up things behind you as well, in the same way that a telephoto lens visually compresses the objects in the field. So does the parabolic with sound. And if you are even a little off axis, the sound quality changes drastically. They are very good at what they do, but there are so many compromises to get there. I cannot recommend it for that kind of indoor use. Then SoundSpeed says about parabolic mics. They are usually used for birds and other high-pitched animals because the dish should be the length of the longest wavelength it's trying to pick up. If you have a deep male voice with a fundamental frequency of 80 Hz, then you'd need a parabolic dish that's 14 feet wide or wider because that's the length of an 80 Hz sound wave. The higher the frequency, the smaller the wavelength, and the easier it is to handhold and wield a parabolic. You may still pick up some frequencies lower than the wavelength, but not much. So no, you don't want to use a parabolic on your voice. By the way, I have a Sony PBR330 parabolic if you want to borrow it, Bandrew. Liam and Sound Speeds, thank you very much for the comments. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experience here, because I have never used parabolic mics. I made some assumptions, and it sounds as though those assumptions were incorrect. You have both corrected me, you have shared your knowledge with the class, and now we can all walk away from this episode smarter, wiser, and better off. I love this. This is amazing. The more I learn about audio, the more I realize I don't know a gosh darn thing. And isn't that exciting? That is exciting as heck to me. I am excited. That sounds gross. I am interested to learn more. I will put it that way. The final what you had to say comes from Wolf Gilbert. He says, Hey Bandrew, hope all is well. I usually think you are spot on with your microphone recommendations/assessments, but I have to say the way the Dynacaster sounded on the playback seemed awful to me. Did you get a chance to listen back to the video? Is it just me? Interested to see if there are any similar comments. If not, I will just assume it was my ears and or something odd happening with YouTube. Wolf, thank you very much for the comment. I really do appreciate it. I did hear the test, I did listen back to it, and I hear every single podcast that I make because I edit it. So I listen to it nonstop. I listen to it a lot more than anybody else ever listens to any of my shows. I did not hear the Dynacaster playback seeming awful. It sounded good to me. The SD1 seemed fine as well. Very different tones, that's for sure. When I was listening back, I did wish that I had not engaged the low boost on the SE Dynacaster. And admittedly, that is very difficult to say. Give it a shot. Admittedly, I was being a bit lazy. I didn't want to go back and refilm a bunch of tests. But I am rectifying that now. I have a bunch of tests filmed. We'll start with a blind, flat comparison, microphone to microphone. Then I will let you hear every single EQ setting on each of the mics. Let's go to that right now. Starting on microphone A, this is microphone A, about 3 inches away from the microphone. Jumping over to microphone B, this is microphone B, about 3 inches away from the microphone. Jumping back to microphone A, this microphone is in neutral mode, still 3 inches away. And then jumping over to microphone B, again 3 inches away, microphone set in neutral mode. Get ready because I will be disclosing which microphone is which in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Microphone A is the Universal Audio SD1 in neutral mode, 18i20, gain set nearly at 100%. Microphone B is the SE Electronics Dynacaster, neutral mode. Gain on the Focusrite set at about 1030 because I have the Dynamite circuit engaged. Now buckle up because this may get a bit boring or dull, but I'm going to compare the different settings on these microphones so you can hear the difference in versatility and the difference in sound. This is the Universal Audio SD1 in neutral mode. This is the Universal Audio SD1 with the high pass filter or bass cut engaged. This is the Universal Audio SD1 in neutral mode. This is the SD1 with the presence boost engaged but no low cut engaged. This is the Universal Audio SD1 in neutral mode. And this is the SD1 with the bass cut and the presence boost engaged. This is the SE Electronics Dynacaster in neutral mode. This is the Dynacaster with the high pass filter or low cut engaged. This is the Dynacaster with the low boost engaged. This is the Dynacaster in neutral mode again. This is the Dynacaster with the first high boost engaged, which is a bit more subtle. Here is the Dynacaster with the second high boost engaged, which is a lot more exaggerated and it makes it quite a bit brighter. Here is the Dynacaster with the high pass filter engaged, as well as the first high boost engaged. Here is the Dynacaster with the high pass filter or low cut and the second more exaggerated high boost engaged. Here is the Dynacaster with the low frequency boost and the first high frequency boost engaged. And finally, here is the SE Dynacaster with that low boost engaged and the second more aggressive high shelf or high boost engaged. So you get that beefier low end and that much brighter top end. There you go. That is a rundown and comparison of the Universal Audio SD1 and the SE Electronics Dynacaster. I hope this helped you understand the sound of these microphones, the potential versatility of these microphones, and ultimately which of these microphones is right for you. That is it for what you had to say. Now we are jumping to the value for value segment because this is a value for value show. If you get any value out of this show, feel free to send it back in whatever way you deem necessary, any way that you think is fit for this show. Is it money? Is it time? Is it leaving comments? I don't know. Is it sharing your knowledge in the comments with the rest of the class? Then do that. Thank you so much. The first and only super thanks we got last week's comes from Ted Med Rainer Richter, €20. He says, Danke. Rainer, thank you so much for the €20. It really does mean the world to me. You are the benefactor of the BSP. You keep this show running. You are so deeply appreciated by me, and I am sure everybody else who watches this show, because thanks to you and everybody else who has contributed, we have no ads on this show. Ad-free viewing, content-free, nothing behind a paywall, thanks to wonderful people like you. So, Rainer, thank you so much. I think my connection's kind of funky. Did you hear that? Something funny is going on. Welcome to ANN, the actual news network. We interrupt your regularly scheduled podcast to bring you some late-breaking, completely unimportant news. Last week on PlanetRage.show, the intrepid hosts were confused by the fact that Bandrew Scott, the host of the BSP, stated that Planet Rage says things that you just cannot say. Here is a clip from PlanetRage.show, episode 106.
Yeah, I didn't know we were the show. Do we say things that people wouldn't normally say?
I never thought of us that way, Darren, but I guess if that's what people think, that's what they think.
We are the show that will say what you're thinking.
I'll be damned.
Well, Larry and Darren, because this is ANN, Actual News Network, to sound like one of those online annoying people, we brought receipts. Here is a clip from Planet Rage, episode 104.
If you're out and about, even if you don't normally carjack people, if you happen to see Bandrew getting out of his car,
carjack him.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
There you have it. Proof that Derry and Laren, hosts of the Planet Rage show, do, in fact, say stuff that you cannot say. Cannot's kind of strong. Should not? No. They say stuff that is generally not accepted as appropriate or polite. That's what we'll go with. Here you are, proof that Derry and Laren, hosts of the Planet Rage show, say stuff that is generally not accepted as appropriate or polite. I can say for certain, do not carjack Bandrew. Yup, that is it. That is it for this edition of the Actual News Network. Back to you in the studio and the regularly scheduled programming. Okay, I think my connection is coming back. Can you see me? Can you hear me? That was very weird. How did we lose connection on a recorded video? That's bizarre. I think that's going to wrap up this week's show. I'm not doing any Ask Bandrew this week because I did a lot of work on the testing and I had to fight to get my connection back. That took me no work because that was not me presenting. Nope, not me. That is going to wrap up this week. I will be back with more episode next week. That was a weird way to phrase it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. You're incredible. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you, with you, about you, above you, below you, surrounding you, on top of the world, underneath the world, in the world. Who's to say? I will talk to you. I will talk to you then. I love you. Bye-bye. Whoa, whoa. Boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.